Hi everyone, it's Ash here from FPL Hints, back with an update on my FPL Draft Wildcard squad for Game Week 8. As mentioned on my previous video, I decided to act rather swiftly so that I wasn't shortchanged on the price changes that took place over the weekend, and thankfully I was on the right side of the price swings there. And I did mention that many of the players that were picked in my initial wildcard draft were placeholders, with some also being essentials as well. So I've looked at the different combinations that I wanted to go for, and I've gone for some changes that I feel are different to the usual run-of-the-mill names. So with this squad, I will make some justifications. I felt that the bench was like too weak, and I feel that with the tweaks that I've made, and also with the injuries that have taken place over the last few days, that I feel that I can certainly justify each of these picks. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. This is my updated wildcard team. So no changes in goal. I've still got Turner as starting goalie for Game Week 8 and Areola as my sub 1. So yeah, can't really argue with that. And you'll see why, because I've literally maxed out my budget. And what's different here is that I've decided to get Anderson in from Crystal Palace. And with him, you probably think, oh, it's a knee-jerk transfer because he's scored a few goals, kept a few clean sheets. But I also feel that he offers exceptional value as well, being less than 5 million, integral to his team. And he's got like these green block fixtures coming up as well, right through to December, well, up and through to November and early December. So he's someone I could pretty much start in most of those matches, at least 5 of the next 7 games. So I feel that he offers exceptional value in that price range. So in comes Anderson for this updated draft squad. Got Udogi still, and Trippier, and I've got Cash. I did consider some alternatives instead of Anderson, like doubling up on Villa and getting Luca Digne in, but then I thought that might be just a step too far with his trolling as well. I wanted a playable fourth defender, and Anderson, fit the bill in that respect. And this basically means that I've had a formation change as well, because in essence, I wanted like defenders that aren't like super expensive. Of course, Trippier is the exception here, but with Cash ridiculously priced at less than 5 million, same with Udogi. So with those two in particular, and Trippier for that matter, it's not really about the clean sheets, it's just about the attacking returns. And with Anderson, okay, I know he's scored 3 goals, but I feel that it's really clean sheet prowess is why I want him. And at that price range, you can't go wrong. Now, here's where I've gone a bit different with my midfield. So I've gone for a 3-man midfield just so that I can accommodate both Mohamed Salah, who I didn't have before, and to retain Son. And of course, there are questions about Son being a doubt for this weekend, but I'm going by this iteration that Son will be in my team, subject to a significant injury. And you can see right in the middle there, all this talk of players going for the Maddison and Son combination, and also some mentioning Richarlison as well. I think Kulusevski is someone that has been completely overlooked. Ownership of less than 2% and only priced at 7 million. And he's started, if I'm not mistaken, pretty much all of Spurs games from the start of the season. I know he's only got 2 goals to really talk home of all these starts, but with Ange Ball and also with certain injuries that have taken place for Spurs, you'd expect him to surely score more goals, especially with the generous run of games that's coming up. And then in terms of how he's done here, just want to bring this up as well. His expected GI, the average is 0.3, which per 90, which probably isn't great, but I just feel that with a need for him to deliver, And for Spurs to make the most of these green block fixtures, I can overlook that. I don't really care massively about the XG and XA, and I'm willing to take a punt on him. So at 7 million, I also look at his historical performance as well within FPL. That first half season when he was at Spurs, got 14 attacking returns in like less than 1400 minutes. And arguably last season, he got less minutes. Well, he just got less returns as a whole. He should have done much better. But Kulusevski is a differential. He is a punt, but I certainly am willing to take that risk on him. When you look at where Spurs are at the minute, the manager that they have, the green block fixtures, and you look at that price point at 7 million, I can't get Maddison. That's the reality. And I'm not going to take that risk on Richarlison due to rotation being an issue. Kulusevski, you've got the safety net of the minutes there and the hope that he'll bang out like a double-digit haul every now and then. So look, before I continue, if you're able to like, share and subscribe, that will be greatly appreciated. And these picks that I'm showing, to be honest with you, some of these picks are not for you if you're in a relatively high rank and you're like, I don't know, 100k by game week 7. Kulusevski is clearly a pick where you're chasing. And in my case, not only am I chasing, I can't justify the Maddison and Son double up. Simply can't, purely because of funds. And also, when I show you my front line, which I've not really seen anyone have this trio, you'll see where I'm going there, and also my bench as well. And of course, Mohamed Salah, I've given my justifications in the previous video, and I feel that he's had a fantastic run of form since April. Of course, blanked last game week, but he's definitely captaincy option in some of the game weeks ahead as well. So at 12.6 million, I know he's not cheap, and it's going to be problematic in terms of having to shoehorn him in for those that decide to get him later on after the international break. So I feel that I'm very lucky in that regard, that if he can carry on that form, you look at the fixtures, October 21st, Everton, Forest, Luton, Brentford, of course got City, got Fulham, Sheffield United, Palace, United, and then, okay, the red blocks come again. But you'd back Mohamed Salah for pretty much right until the new year, apart from 1 or 2 fixtures there. So I feel that makes perfect sense to get him in. And what really surprised me in particular, we know that Haaland has a 92% ownership, but Mohamed Salah, his ownership as well is like 32%. So you could effectively say that more than a quarter of FPL managers have Salah and Haaland already. And I wonder how many have Son in addition. Probably not that many. So with Salah, I'm probably late to the party, no doubt about it, but I feel that there's still a good run to come. Now, here's where I deviate from the rest of the content creators, because I had Julian Alvarez in my team, and of course had Haaland in my team as well. But I've gone for Watkins because I've seen a lot of this debate about some willing to sell Alvarez for Watkins, but then you see that what Alvarez has done this season and his price point at less than 7 million for that City team, being a regular starter, you just can't go wrong with him. And of course, he scored in the Champions League as well, coming off the bench. So I can't really justify selling him at all. And it basically means that I'm forced into this 3-4-3 or 4-3-3 formation. And it means that in terms of a traditional power 7, as it were, with 5 midfielders and 2 forwards, that's not the way forward for me. And I've got to really rely on some defensive fancy returns. And that's why I've gone for some of those picks, which may not, of course, some of these players are in form right now, but kind of goes against the grain as well. So I have to go for that. But I've gone for a power 6 with the midfielders and forwards at hand. So you look at them, and there is a risk that if Son and Salah, or if Salah and Haaland, or if Haaland and Son, if two of the three blank in a given game week, which is possible, it is going to hit my rank quite badly. So it's a calculated risk. I'm not going to sell Haaland. I think it would be absolutely crazy not to, even though he hasn't been scoring many goals of late. But I feel that it's just too hard to ignore Salah and Son as well. And of course, some will make the case that why don't you get rid of Son, get Maddison instead, and then you can spread the funds elsewhere. I think that is still something I could potentially consider, especially if there's a doubt for Son starting this weekend against Luton. I could still explore that route. I just wanted a double up in Spurs attack. I've got the wild card. It's Ange Ball. I've seen some doubling up on Spurs defense, which I think is a bit weird. It has to be a double up on the Spurs attack, and ideally it would be Maddison and Son. My pathway right now is Kulusevski and Son, but I could easily go Kulusevski and Maddison as well. But here's where I'm at the moment. Now onto my bench. This was something that I felt was basically filled with placeholders, and I feel that like in that first draft, I couldn't really justify starting any of them at all. But there'll be instances where I'd want to potentially start some of these players. So of course, Areola, goalkeeper. There'll be matches coming up where I'd want to start him as well. And at that price point, just can't go wrong. Even if he blanks, you just say, oh, he's only 4 million. So with him, got the Everton match, Brentford, Forest, Burnley, Palace, Fulham, Wolves, pretty much, and Sheffield United. So yeah, fair chunk of November, December, you could potentially start him. So again, I had him in my pre-game week 1 draft, got rid of him, and yeah, making up for it now. So what I had in my previous draft was I had a reliance on getting Diaby in, and I've decided actually he's yellow flagged, unlikely to start during the week, so I have to get rid of him. And I did consider that double up with Luca Dean and Cash. I thought, yeah, I'm not going to take a ticket on that ride for that double up. However, a player that I am happy to have as a sub 1 and a potential starter from time to time is Douglas Luiz. And many might have this idea that, oh, isn't he like a defensive midfielder, hasn't done much? But then look at last season, 13 goal involvements. Of course, the first season he was at Villa, 5, dropped to 2, back to 5, 13. So clearly under Unai Emery, he's been getting the most of him in terms of like just goal involvements, which is great. And of course, you don't want to rely on him for that alone. And for those that have gone 3-5-2, you'd probably potentially consider Luiz as your 5th midfielder. But in my case, he's a potential 4th midfielder if I was going to start him. I could even start him in the Wolves game for game week 8 as well. But it remains to be seen. I'm happy to have him as a sub 1, potential 4th starting midfielder. I haven't seen him in many teams either. But again, my hand has been forced in that sense because of funds and because I have that triple up of Haaland, Son and Salah in this updated wildcard draft. On to the second sub, which is Anderson. I feel that with him, he'll clock up regular minutes in the Premier League this season with Newcastle United. And yeah, you're not going to want to really start him. His attacking prowess isn't really there in terms of the position that he plays for Newcastle United. But if you want him to just pick up those points and be a potential auto sub, then you can't really go wrong. And of course, we know reasonable fixtures coming up as well. But if Douglas Luiz is the sub 1 and the 4th midfielder for this draft, Anderson is basically the sub 1, sub 2 in essence. And onto my final pick in this draft, it's Taylor. So I think I had Kabore or another Luton. No, I had Al Dakhil of Burnley, and I've just gone for Taylor because I needed to really max out the budget to make these players fit. And of course, Al Dakhil's 4 million, and crucially, Charlie Taylor is 3.9 million, and I wanted a playing 3.9 defender, just in terms of, again, he'll be a dud sub pretty much for a fair few of these fixtures, but then some of these green block fixtures could promote him up the batting order, as it were, from the subs, being a sub 2 or a sub 1, maybe even starting him if Burnley rediscover Dyche Wonder Company. So that could be an option as well. But I know that I've seen some people have gone for Tariq Lamptey, but then with Lamptey, it'll be really a short-term pick until Estupinan comes back, I guess. I wouldn't really want to go for him. And then if you did get Lamptey, then you'd kind of hope that you'd start him in some of those games as well. But I'm guessing when Brighton's fixtures turn for the better, then Estupinan would come to the fore again. So didn't make sense to me. And Taylor's already 3.9 million. Expect his price, well, I'd be shocked if his price dropped any further. I expect many would buy him purely because of the starts he's been getting with Burnley this season. So again, placeholder, dud sub 3. Can't really see me starting him. But the players I'm really relying on are Douglas Luiz as a potential starter and Anderson as a sub 1 in the event you get like a random benching from these players. But you look at these players, Alvarez, I expect him to start regularly until KDB is back. And even when KDB is back, Pep will be very hard pushed to bench him. Haaland regular starter, Watkins regular starter, Salah regular starter, Son regular starter, subject to being fit. Kulusevski has been a regular starter. So I feel that front six, there isn't a risk of rotation there. So I'm content with that. And then defense, Trippier, Cash, Udogie, all of these players on paper and as of this season are regular starters. So I would hope that I'm not heavily reliant on anyone on my bench except for Douglas Luiz, who I'd expect to start from time to time for certain games. And you look at Luiz's minutes, healthily, well over 2,700 minutes on average for the past 3 seasons. So another regular starter. Anderson has been getting regular starts, but I wouldn't rely upon him. So that's the case that I've made here. And of course, the glaring misses here. I've got no Arsenal player. Saka might be injured for a set amount of time. So I feel that I can hopefully get away with that from the Arsenal side. I really do need an Arsenal defender, if I'm being perfectly honest. And the one option I could do is switch out Anderson for Gabriel. That's something that I have considered. But then I'm thinking, is Gabriel still a rotation risk? And Anderson has offered somewhat of a goal threat in addition as well. So if I was playing it safe, I would flip him out. But then that's a question mark that's still there. In terms of how many of these players are absolutely locked in, I'd say, without giving away names, I think the majority of the squad I'd hope to have come the deadline of game week 8. But it's a tough balancing act, and just remains to be seen. Like, is this just too unorthodox, having this power 6 and relying on them for those upcoming green block fixtures? Who knows? So that's it. Let me know in the comments below what you think, if this is a bit over the top or if there's a logic to it. I personally feel, based on being ranked 2.9 million, albeit had a 500k rank rise in game week 7, I feel that this is the pathway that I need to take, whereby I've got some of the big hitters, I've got some differentials, and the variation is mixed with a bit of template as well. I can't go full template, unfortunately, even though going full template for large chunks of the season is my default. Because I'm ranked 2.9 million, I need to take some risks. And in this case, I've got no Brighton, and I've got no Arsenal. But of course, I can adapt and change accordingly come October, well, late October, November, especially when Brighton's fixtures turn as well. But there you have it. This is my 4-3-3 formation, which is, I hope, X-Min's safe and hopefully XGI heavy as well. And also not only XGI heavy, but just heavy in general with actual returns. As always, if you're able to like, share and subscribe, that will be greatly appreciated. Or if you simply want to buy me a coffee, the link is in the description below. Take care and all the best. And before I go, I will possibly post my final draft before the deadline. We'll just see how much news we get on Friday. And I guess what I've got right now is the reference point, but there might be a few more tweaks, but we'll see. I feel that the logic behind these picks makes sense for me, but yeah, I can't guarantee if I'll post a final draft, but if I'm fairly content by Saturday morning, I should do. So yeah, there you have it. Take care and all the best with your picks. Thank you very much. Bye.